Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, I was having a conversation with my buddy today, and he had asked me about trade targets for the Commanders, and he brought up a name that was somewhat interesting, but at the same time, my first inclination was to blurt out, I'm not interested. He asked me about trade targets, and he said, what about the Rams corner? I said, what are you talking about? He said, you know who I'm talking about. I said, TreDavious White? Not interested. He said, why not? Think he's a good fit for you. I'm like, no, he's not. Like, I don't want to just be going out getting corners just for the sake of going out to get corners, right? I told him, and he said, well, you think y'all going to do anything at the deadline? I'm like, I'm not sure. But, you know, a guy, he said, you know, I heard TreDavious White's name being thrown out there. What you think he's worth? I said, they're asking for a 3. He said, I think he's worth a 3. I said, I ain't trying to give up nothing more than a 4. He said, I know. So, you know, how far are the Commanders really willing to go is the question. I don't think they're willing to go far at all. But a guy like TreDavious White could fall into their lap. He's been a healthy inactive for the last 3 weeks for the Rams. And the Rams had no intentions of playing him as much as they did early on this season. But due to circumstances, they had injuries themselves. He was thrusted out there maybe a little bit earlier than they would have liked to have put him on the field. Now, I know I watched the Rams earlier in the season, and he was picking up some flags, and it wasn't pretty. And it kind of marred my, thought process when it comes to him, as he's washed. He's old, and those injuries, they scare me, and I'm not interested. Then I got to thinking, too. He's making league minimum. I think it'll cost the Commanders less than $2 million for the remainder of the year if he hits certain bonuses and incentives. If you are to trade for him, you're not giving up anything more than a 6 or a 7. Now, I don't think we have a 6. If I'm not mistaken, I've been told by multiple people, and I haven't fact-checked this because I'm not in draft mode. I don't give a shit about what draft picks we have right now. I just know I'm not trying to part ways with them, right? Unless it's a player that moves the needle. And I've been very adamant about that. If it's a needle mover, sign me up, right? As long as the price is right. But if it's a non-needle mover and TreDavious White is not a needle mover, then it needs to be a back end of the draft type of selection. If we don't have a 6, I'm not giving up a 5 for TreDavious White. When a 6 can get it done. And if the Rams aren't using him and they're willing to take a 7, hell, let's do it, right? It can't hurt to have a guy like TreDavious White if he's a team player and if he's willing to come in here and not be a nuisance or a problem should he not play. I like the little structure that we have going on right now, right? At the cornerback position with our 3-man weave, with 4 really when you enter in Emmanuel Forbes Jr. I like a little 4-man weave, even though I'm still not the biggest Emmanuel Forbes Jr. fan. I'm willing to give him a chance. I hate the fact that he doesn't tackle, right? However, he's not going to play over Benjamin St. Juice. I don't care how much you don't like Juice. He's not playing over Juice. He's not playing over Noah Igbenogany, and he's not playing over Mike Sainristil. So what exactly are you getting him for? Insurance is what I would be interested in. A 7th-round pick insurance policy is the way I would view a TreDavious White. Now, if the Rams are willing to, say adios to a veteran corner for a 7th-rounder, sign me up. We got multiple 7th-rounders, okay? Sign me up. We'll toss you one of those. Matter of fact, doesn't matter which one it is, the higher of the two, don't really care. It's yours. Take it. I'm not giving you a 5th-round pick for TreDavious White because he probably isn't going to play. If things go the way it's supposed to go, he shouldn't see the field. He is an insurance policy, okay? So I'm not giving you a 5th-round pick for an insurance policy. I'll give you a 7th-round pick for an insurance policy. We don't have a 6th-round pick, or I would have been willing to part ways with that. Bottom line is, TreDavious White, for those of you interested, he's not a needle mover. This man has had a torn ACL and a blown Achilles in the last 4 years, right? One of each. He's not the player that he once was in Buffalo, which is why he's not playing in Los Angeles for the Rams. And it's not like the Rams have world beaters at the cornerback position, and he can't get on the field. So I'm interested in an insurance policy because he's better than anything else we have on our bench, right? After Emmanuel Forbes, can you name a corner on this team after Michael Davis? Can you name another corner on this team? I'm talking about even on the practice squad. Can you name another corner? Probably not. Now, that's another thing. If you trade for TreDavious White, he's probably not a guy that is fond of being on the practice squad, because I don't think he's playing the type of special teams that Michael Davis is playing. He's not running down and making a tackle like he's back in high school or college. So that's part of the reason he's probably a healthy scratch on Sundays, because he doesn't play any special teams. He's of no use to you in that regard, which is why I don't think they're going to do anything in that space, right? Don't see TreDavious White really being an option, but I still think Washington is a player. And next week, obviously, is the trade deadline. My guess is it will come and it will go, and we won't hear anything done here in Washington. But I would not be shocked if you saw this team do something on the defensive side of the football, specifically at corner or edge rusher. I would not be shocked. Those are the only two positions I think that we should even be remotely interested in at this time. All of the good receivers, gone, right? Not that we were really interested in that anyway. There's still some edge rushers that can help, and you're really not going to get anything noteworthy at corner, which is what I've been saying this entire time. You're really not going to get anything out of the cornerback position. So there's that, right? Anyway, I digress. TreDavious White is available. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. He doesn't cost so much from a financial standpoint, and he's not going to cost you much from a draft capital standpoint. What are you willing to part ways with, if anything, to get your hands on TreDavious White? Are you interested? And if so, what are you willing to part ways with? He's relatively cheap. And again, do you think he's an upgrade over anybody on the team right now? No, I don't even think he's better than Michael Davis at this point of his career. And he can't get on the field here either. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying. In other news, we heard from both the offensive coordinator, Kliff Kingsbury, and the defensive coordinator, Joe Whitt Jr. We will talk about what was said by both gentlemen here in a second. But before we do that, you already know what we got to do. We got to take a look at the injury report for both teams after Thursday's practice and see what it says. So let's talk about the injury report for both teams. And we start with the Commanders, the good guys. I told you yesterday that I wasn't overly concerned with the injury report. As a matter of fact, I told you this was probably the least threatening injury report we've had since about week 1, right? That was until I saw Frankie Louie and I said, hey, it's a DNP on Wednesday, not concerned, right? And I saw, a number of guys that hadn't been up here, like Terry, like Olamide Zaccheaus. And I said, okay, look, let's just see what it looks like tomorrow. We're seeing some hamstrings pop up here, and, Louvu's shin and Cornelius Lucas's ankle. Let's just wait and see what it looks like first, and then we'll judge how serious this injury report really truly is. Well, now it's Thursday, and Cleveland Farrell was off last Thursday, so I'm not tripping about that. I think this might be the move now, right? Thursday is the most grueling day of practice. That's the day they give him off. I get it. Cornelius Lucas did not practice for the second consecutive day. Not looking good for the veteran tackle. But Brandon Coleman is trending towards being ready on Sunday. We should be fine, theoretically speaking, if Coleman can go. So, Lucas, take the time that you need this week. Hopefully, the ankle responds to treatment and you're ready to go next week because we're going to need you against the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Or, excuse me, the Pittsburgh Steelers, TJ Watt, Highsmith, and all those guys. We're going to need you next week, right? But the one that really, truly bothers me and makes me a little bit uneasy is Frankie Louvu's shin. Now, could Frankie, be doing the Jaden Daniels and his best impression of Jaden and not practicing on Wednesday, Thursday, and then giving us a little limited work on Friday and ready to go on Sunday? Maybe. But I don't like Frankie Louvu. I don't like Oos being down for the first 2 days of practice this week, a guy that hasn't been on the injury report all season long. Terry's ankle, just fine, full participant both days. Good to see both Brian Robinson and OZ both practicing, even if on a limited basis. It's good to see that take place today as well. But Cornelius Lucas and Frankie Louvu are the two concerns. I'm already counting Lucas out of this game. With a healthy Brandon Coleman back, we should be fine at left tackle, but I am concerned about Frankie Louvu. Because if I'm not mistaken, and again, not all injuries are created the same, not all bodies heal the same, but correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the rookie safety Tyler Owens miss now he could have had a different injury. I could have sworn he missed like 3 weeks with a shin. Now, again, he might have had a shin early and then it transformed into an ankle or a hamstring or something like that. And that's why he missed all those games. I don't know anything about his shin. I don't know, how severe of an injury this is, but I am nervous. This is a big stretch of ball. And boy, do we need Frankie Louvu on defense like we need air to breathe. So that's one worth monitoring, even if he can't go this week. It's the Giants, and the same thing I said about Carolina, I feel about the Giants, even though I respect the Giants a whole hell of a lot more than I do the Carolina Panthers. I remember saying, look, we're good this week without Dorrance Armstrong. Like, we're fine. We can survive without Dorrance this week. Take the week off. We'll see you next week. I don't necessarily feel that strongly about it this week against the Giants, but I'm like, hey, if Frankie needs a week off, I'd rather this week, the next week, or the week after that, or the week after that. That's for sure. So, something to keep an eye on. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. We go to the ops, and a lot of this is fluff here. As you can see, most of these guys practiced in some capacity today outside of the punter, Jamie Gillen, and Bryce Ford Wheaton, the receiver that returned the block field goal against the Seattle Seahawks for a touchdown. Everybody else practiced. So including Tyrone Tracy, and I'm like, yo, what the F is that all about? What is this man, superhuman? What does he have, some kind of healing properties that we aren't aware of? This man sustained a concussion on Monday. He's practicing on Thursday? Now, I'm not afraid of Tyrone Tracy. Like, I'm not over here shaking in my boots because he's practicing on a limited basis today. But what the F, bro? Seriously? And again, as I mentioned before, no two injuries are the same. No two bodies are the same. The concussion he could have sustained could have been a mild one. Or he could have gone into concussion protocol, hit all the benchmarks, and he really truly didn't have a concussion, but he didn't come back into the game because they were practically at the end of the game. Doesn't feel like he walked away concussionless, okay? He left relatively early in the fourth quarter and did not return. It said concussion protocol yesterday. Now it just says concussion, and he practiced on a limited basis. Little head scratching. We'll keep an eye on it, but I'm not tripping either way. Like, nobody on this list outside of Jermaine Illuminor, necessary, and Cordell Flott, he's a good player too, necessarily moves, and John Michael Schmitz, which he's fine, as you can see, and John Runyon. That's most of their offensive linemen and one of their corners. And most of those guys are going to play. No, Brian Burns is on this list. He's playing, right? Nobody up here really moves the needle. And they're all practicing and they're all going to play. Tracy was supposed to be a relief that he didn't play. If he plays, all right, let's stop him. But I'm shocked that he practiced today. I'm not going to lie to you. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to in other news, and let's talk about what we heard at the presser of both Kliff Kingsbury and Joe Whitt Jr. We'll start with Kliff Kingsbury. He talked about the Hail Mary. Obviously, that's a topic of discussion. And he talked about David Rye, our tight ends coach, who he said has now been a part of 5 Hail Marys. He said I think it was 3 in Green Bay, 1 in Arizona with Kliff, and now here in Washington. Aaron Rodgers has 3 Hail Marys that he's completed. So that's probably the 3 that are in question. Kliff has been a part of 2, right? Kliff talked about the one that he was a part of in Arizona, which was the Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins against the Buffalo Bills. He said that one wasn't as lit because there were no fans. That was during COVID. So there was no fans in the stands. So it really didn't have the same effect as the one did on Sunday versus the Bears. He said it was one of the, craziest experiences he's ever been a part of in terms of like at the end of the game and bedlam and things of that nature. And he said that they asked him about, John Kahn must be doing a story on, the degree of difficulty of some of these passes that Kliff or Jaden is completing, because he keeps asking everyone the same question about the degree of difficulty. And so he talked about, Jaden just being willing to take those risks, but also being extremely accurate. And he talked about him wanting to be perfect in practice and things of that nature. And, there was a little joke there where, he talked about him not being able to get the ball in the bucket at practice when the quarterbacks are doing it. But he's like, I'll take what he's doing in the games over the bucket in practice, essentially. He talked about some of the red zone struggles. And he said, look, we can't have the penalties and the mistakes, but I got to call better plays. One thing I've loved about both of these coordinators this year, there is a humongous and tremendous amount of it's a tremendous amount of culpability that they're taking for their actions, for their play calls, for the things that haven't gone right. Even if it's not their fault, they're falling on the sword, which is what a good coach does, right? And, to a degree, you don't want to be falling on the sword all the time. As John Thompson once said, as a wise man once said, if you keep telling everybody it's your fault, eventually they're going to start to blame you, right? They're going to start to believe you, and it's going to be your fault. So you don't want to do that all the time, but you love, after having years of no accountability from coaches, to hear the level of culpability that we've heard from both Kliff Kingsbury and Joe Whitt Jr. is quite refreshing. And they've both done a really good job to this point to begin with. So to hear them say, hey, no, I got to be better as a play caller. I got to put us in a better position to make plays and, finish off drives, but we can't have the mistakes, which is the biggest issue. He's like, we moved the ball really well at times against Chicago. We knew what they were going to present in terms of challenges. And, we just got to be better. We got to execute better. And then, in terms of the crazy throws that Jaden has made this season, John Kahn asked him which one is the craziest that you've seen, like the highest degree of difficulty throw that you said, whoa. And, I've chronicled a lot of those throws this season. There's obviously the one against Cincinnati, which I think is at the top of the pile. But the throw against the Ravens, he had 2 of them in that game, both to Terry. But the third down one was incredible. The fourth down one was even more incredible. Then there's the Hail Mary. Obviously, you move that aside. But the first possession of the game, I told you guys, that throw to Luke McCaffrey in the corner of the end zone, I told the mob this. This is a ridiculous throw. This is an incredible throw. The fact that Jaden has Montez Sweat yanking him to the ground, yoking him up essentially as he's flinging that football, for him to put that ball where he did and give Luke a chance to have a touchdown in the back. It's remarkable that ball was. It was like, I thought he was throwing it away. Like, there's no way he's trying to complete a pass. He's just trying to get rid of it and fight to live, live to fight another down. And no, he was actually giving Luke a chance in the back. That was a ridiculous throw. And Kliff was like, yo, that play was crazy, right? And Kliff talked about the substitutions and, how the defense get a chance to substitute. And he's like, I don't really want to get too much into that because you can tell he's pissed off because we be getting screwed. If you sub, then the defense obviously has a chance to sub as well. And Kliff is like, this is some bullshit because you remember we got a penalty. Trent Scott got a penalty, and we're up against it. Like that referee is standing in the way until there's like 2 seconds left on the game, on the play clock. And you're like, bro, get the hell out of the way so we can snap the ball. And he's like, they're giving the defense way too much time. But he's like, that's another discussion for another day. But he's like, they're giving them way too much time. But it just puts the onus on us to be prepared. As soon as that guy moves out the way, we're ready to snap the ball. But, it's tough. It makes it tough on the offense when, you make a simple substitution with, 21 seconds left, and then all of a sudden the defense wants to run a guy on with 9 seconds left on the play clock, and the referee's standing there waiting for the guy to get set on the field, and now there's only 2 seconds. So even if there's an adjustment to be made pre-snap, you can't even do it because the official's in the damn way. So it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Right? The defense be taking advantage. Kliff essentially said, without saying, the defense be taking advantage of that shit. There needs to be something done. Like, hey, we're going to give you up until X amount of time. Like, once there's 7 seconds left on the play clock, if you haven't made your substitution by then, we can't help you. We moving our official out the way. But that's bullshit. At least 5 seconds. Move out the way with 5 at least. Kliff also talked about, this being the second time that we've seen the Giants. And, you hope that you're a better team than you were the first time. He talked about the Bears game, and he said there were a lot of parallels, which we've talked about. DQ said it. I said it after the game. This felt just like week 2 against the Giants, where we made a bunch of mistakes. There were a lot of self-inflicted wounds that cost us in the red zone. And he said that, one of the things that he was asked was, in that Giants game the first time around, were they a little bit more conservative in the red zone, knowing that the Giants didn't have a field goal kicker? And he said, I would love to tell you, yeah, we were, but that wasn't the case. We were trying to score touchdowns every time. We just didn't do it, all right? So this time around, I think they're going to look to score touchdowns, and they will show no mercy. This is going to be some Cobra Kai shit, real talk. So, and then he talked about, the offensive line, the tight ends, and the job that they're doing and how they block and all of that good stuff. So then we heard from Joe Whitt Jr., and he talked about the game first and foremost and how pissed off he was that they gave up the score at the end. And he told his Hail Mary story because he's like, I actually didn't see because they asked him about the crowd, and that's been a big topic of discussion over the last month or so. We've played 3 home games in the last 4 weeks after starting the season off with 4 out of our first 6 on the road. We've now played 3 out of our last 4 at home. So there was finally an opportunity for us to kind of get a feel for the home crowd and whether they were going to be super supportive, and they have been. And he was like, I didn't really hear the crowd and didn't see their reaction because I was pissed off. I had walked off after we gave up the touchdown, and he said that he had to talk to himself, and he was like, you know what, just, let's just see what happens with this last possession. And he said, oh, cool. He saw by the time he come back from the hallway, he was just in time to see the play before the Hail Mary. He's like, oh, they're giving us the sideline, so they're going to give us these yards. Cool. He's like, that helps. We're really going to get a chance to throw a Hail Mary now. And so he said he was looking up at the monitor, and they caught it. And he said they went nuts. They went running down the hallway to the elevator. So he's like, yeah, we really didn't experience the crowd, but it was definitely pandemonium. He said that defensively, he was happy for Johnny Newton getting the sack, but he also said this is what they were expecting from him, right? He was gonna have to step up, big shoes to fill for Jonathan Allen being out, And he had a hell of a game. He's like, it wasn't just the sack. He did a lot of things, as we all can attest to. He said, but how about Klee jumping up? He said, as a unit, we were prepared for that screen. Klee jumps in the window, which he did, and forces Caleb to pump and hold on to it. And then Johnny was able to go secure the sack. So he's like, as a team, the communication was. I told you guys this after the game. I said, or after the film, rather. Matter of fact, it was yesterday's show. We watched the film. I said the communication was stellar, right? You could visibly see the communication watching the game live, and then watching it back on the all 22s. You see communication throughout this defense, and he gave a lot of credit to Bobby Wagner. I think they're going to re-sign Bobby Wagner after this season. I really, truly do. I really think that had Jordan McGee played this season and been effective, they would have gone in a different direction potentially. But I think because McGee suffered that injury and had that setback, he's so far behind the rest of the defense that, barring some sort of, turn of events, he ain't really seeing the field this year. And because of that, I think you're going to see Bobby continue to play at an extremely high level. And I think they're going to re-sign Bobby next year if he wants to play again next season. So Joe Whitt was just gushing over Bobby Wagner's communication, and he said, he's my quarterback on the field. He literally called plays without me on Sunday. He said, we had one-word play calls because we knew the Bears were going to go with tempo. He said, we're the number 1 team in the league in tempo offense. They're the number 2 team. And he said there are various advantages to going tempo. And so we knew we were going to have to over-communicate and be over-prepared. And Bobby Wagner allowed us to do that. He allowed us to get situated on the field. He allowed us to get into different calls and not just into vanilla defenses that you normally have to get into when a team goes up-tempo. He was able to get us into some different looks that might have, confused Caleb Williams, not just cover 2. Because normally when you get into a hurry-up situation, you have base calls, cover 2, cover 3. It's not going to be anything exotic. You're not going to see blitzes, and you're going to see basic coverage. But because Bobby Wagner is able to communicate, and because Joe Whitt Jr. had them prepared, and he had one-word calls, so it was quick. You could communicate that quick. They were able to get different calls out there and put in different situations that could confuse or speed up the process of a young quarterback. He said Wagner was tremendous because he was like, there were at least 4 calls during the game where he said Bobby has the autonomy to just make the call because he's like, Bobby knows what I want in that situation, looking at the formation. He said nobody on defense watches more film than Bobby Wagner. He said Bobby probably watches more film than most offensive guys, right? As much film as the offense is watching, Bobby's watching that on defense. So he's like, I trust Bobby. And he said every time Bobby had to make a call independent of me, he made the right call. He got us into the right look, right defense for the right look that the offense was giving us. So they love Bobby Wagner. I know Joe Whitt Jr. feels very comfortable with him being on the team. And right now it's feeling like he's going to be back. I mean, right now it's feeling like all these, Eckler was the only one that signed a 2-year deal of all of those veterans. Feels like Ertz could be back next year. Feels like Bobby could be back at this point next year. We'll see, what the future holds. But it's feeling like, John Bates is a free agent after this season. So we'll see what they ultimately decide to do. But it feels like those guys could be back next season. But we got a long way to go before we have that conversation. He talked about the plays that we gave up. Obviously, he said we gave up, the big run. And that was a simple situation of not getting off of a block and then running behind blocks. And I already told y'all in the mob who the culprit was there. It was Jeremy Chin. Outside of that, Chin had a really good game, but that's a big play to give up. And, Whitt talked about Jeremy Chin, and he said, I probably should have mentioned Jeremy Chin when I talked about Bobby Wagner's communication, because Wagner got everybody squared away and got the communication to the front 7. Chin was the one that communicated those calls to the back end. He was the one that was making sure the corners and the safeties were all on one accord and were syncing up with the front 7 defenders. So he's like, I got to give him a lot of credit. And he says, I want to blitz him more, but just haven't done it yet. But I want to blitz him more. I want him to be more active around the line of scrimmage. And I'd like to see that because Chin is a superior athlete, and I think he can make a difference coming after the QB. But wherever they feel like he's best utilized, I'm all about it. So, Joe Whitt talked about that. But then, I think one of my favorite sound bites from this presser was when Joe Whitt talked about the usage of players and how we've changed drastically from the first time we played the Giants. So he was pretty much asked about, Daniel Jones. He's like, in the first matchup this season, you were able to contain him from a running standpoint, but you really didn't get to him. You only sacked him once. And Malik Neighbors killed you. So, and they didn't ask that, but Whitt brought that up. He said, well, I'll tell you this much. We're a lot different defensively since the last time we saw them. And he's like, what I've learned over, that course of time is it's not about plays, it's about players. And I think I might have had an orgasm when he said that. I think I might have had one. I had to check my trousers. Because how long have I been telling you, I don't care about your play. I don't care, right? I care about you taking the best players that we have and putting them in positions to be at their best. That's what I care about. And that's not just on offense. That's on defense. How many times have you heard me say, why can't we line Montez Sweat and Chase Young up on the same side of the formation and rush them? Why can't we stand them up and walk them around in a amoeba-type defense? Why does it have to be Chase Young on the left, Montez Sweat on the right, or vice versa? Why can't they line up and stress the defense on the same side of the field? Why can't we do packages where we put our best pass rushers on the field, right? And Joe Whitt's like, any play, he said, in week 3 against Cincinnati, I had plays that didn't involve Frankie Louvu. He wasn't on the field. Remember, we would look at the statistics, the stats, the amount of snaps played after the game. And, Bobby Wagner would be playing all, 69 of the defensive snaps, and Benjamin St-Juste, all 69. And, you look up and you say, why is Frankie Louvu only playing 63 snaps? Or why is Frankie Louvu only playing 57 of the 69 snaps? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, Bobby Wagner out here for all of them. Where's Frankie Louvu? And he's like, yo, any play that doesn't involve Frankie Louvu is a bad play. And we don't need to be running it, And so he's like, I had to make some adjustments. He said, any call that doesn't involve Frankie Louvu, I need to get rid of it. It's not a good call because he plays with the level of aggressiveness and violence and the speed that we're looking for, and he needs to be on the field at all times, right? So he also talked about that with the corners. He talked about, and how many times you heard me say, Noah Igbenogany, the general, and Mike Sainristil, Frozone, have both been phenomenal. They've been physical. Their coverage has been rock solid. Like, I trust those two dudes out there more so than anybody else in the secondary. And he said those two have played with the physicality that we stress at the cornerback position. They tackle, they're physical. He said at this point, Frozone has exceeded, the expectations we had when we put him outside. We put him out there out of necessity. And he's like, I don't know if we'll be able to move him back inside because he's been so valuable outside. And he said, keep in mind, he's still learning the vantage point of a boundary corner. He's been a nickel or a safety the entire time he's been playing defense. He's only been playing defense. This is his 3rd year as a defensive player. This was a wide receiver coming into college and in high school. So he's only been playing defense 3 years. And the 3 years, he was either a safety or a nickel. So he's never been a boundary corner. So he's still learning, and he's playing extremely well, which speaks volumes as to, what he could become. And Joe is like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to move him back inside as of right now. Maybe next year when you get yourself another, you probably need about 2 corners next year because Juice, his contract is expiring. There'll be no more Michael Davis next year. He's on a 1-year deal. They're not going to re-sign him. So it'll just be Noah Igbenogany. I think he's on a 1-year deal, but I think they'll re-sign him more likely than not. It'll just be Noah Igbenogany, Mike Sainristil, and Emmanuel Forbes are your 3 corners. Then you got to go out and sign at least 2 more corners. Draft a corner, sign a corner, or draft 2 corners right? That's a bare minimum. But, Joe Whitt's like, over the last, 5 games, we've been one of the better defenses in the league. He's not wrong, but you also got to take into consideration the opponents that we've played over the last 5 weeks. They haven't been world beaters. But that's also something to take into consideration. They're not great, and we made them look inferior like we were supposed to. And I'm not asking for a ton of credit for that, but I am asking for acknowledgement for that, because as fans of this team, we know better. We know that it didn't used to be that way. Didn't matter what level of opponent we were playing, we were going to play down to their level if it was a bad team. And if it was a good team, we were going to get trampled over. That's usually how that went. So for us to be dog walking these bad teams is a great sign. And so he talked about the growth of this defense. And I told you guys yesterday on the show, I said, this defense is growing right before our very eyes. It most certainly is. And I'm excited to see where this thing is going. So this was a really good interview, press conference by Joe Whitt Jr. I really thoroughly enjoyed this presser from him. But we are going to take a quick break, get a word from one of our sponsors, and on the other side of that break and promo, we're going to come back on the other side and get to Behind Enemy Lines. What's going on? It's your man Louie T here on behalf of Mando. And if you've watched this channel, then you know how fond I am of Mando products. I saw the commercial one day. I'm vegan. I said, why not give it a shot? I've tried so many different deodorants that haven't worked for me. And this one did. And it's football season, and I'm known to walk around and be very active during football season. And I work up a sweat sometimes. And Mando takes care of me from head to toe. And I love this product, and here are some of the reasons why I love it and why it could be beneficial for you as well. Mando is a whole body deodorant, safe to put on anywhere. Your body parts, pits, package, grundle, balls, feet, belly buttons, butt cracks, stomach folds, anywhere that doesn't get a ton of sunlight and is confined is going to end up being funky. It's going to have hair and it's going to stink. That's where Mando comes in. Attacks odors aggressively, clinically proven to control odor for up to 72 hours. Available in 4 cologne quality scents: Bourbon Leather, Mount Fuji, which is my personal favorite, Pro Sport, and Clover Woods. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It allows you to dibble and dabble and figure out which products you like best. You get a solid stick deodorant, you get the cream tube deodorant, and 2 free items. My personal favorites, the wipes and the small body wash. And all of this comes with free shipping as well. And here's another surprise I got for you. Use my promo code LouieT to get you $5 off. That's 40% off of the total price. Use the promo code LouieT when you head over to Shop Mando, ShopMando.com, and use the promo code LouieT to get you $5 off if you're a new customer. Look, Mando is the best smelling whole body deodorant in the business, and I will stake my claim on that right now. And you tell them your man Louie T sent you. So let's go behind enemy lines, talking about this New York Giants team. And I got a special Halloween treat for you guys. Stick around for the end of this show. This is something that I only do this time of the year. So for those of you who have been here for a while, you're going to enjoy this quite a bit. For others who have just gotten here, you're gonna freak out when you see it because it's a classic. So you guys stick around for that Halloween treat at the end of this show. We're taking on the New York Giants for the second time this season. It's the second contest versus the Giants this year, and it's the first time Jaden Daniels has played a team twice. So that's the significance there. It's also us being done with the Giants season series without even seeing the Eagles or Cowboys once. So that's pretty significant as well. It's a big game. I don't have to explain to you why, but I'm a little nervous by the point spread, I guess. Commanders are 4-point favorites. That's it. We're on the road. It's been a really rough go of it in New York, I will admit. And we didn't score but 18 points last week. I'm aware of that. And the last time we played the Giants, we kicked 7 field goals. I'm aware of that. And the Giants aren't a bad defense. I'm aware of that. And, we got issues and potentially, at least question marks, we'll say, at left tackle with the injury situation. I'm aware of that as well. But all of that amounts to a 4-point spread? That's it? Really interesting stuff. Let's go and look at some of these numbers. Let's go behind enemy lines. Let's first, though, start with the good guys and look at some of these numbers and to see if this 4-point spread is justifiable. So Commanders are now 3rd in total offense with 396 yards per game. That went up. We had over 480 yards of offense a week ago. So that went up. So now we're 3rd in the league in total offense. Scoring wise, we dipped. Obviously, we were tied for first with the Ravens last week at 31 points per game. Now we're under 30 a game at 29.5. Scoring less than 18 will do that, or less than 20, will do that to you. Still one of the highest scoring teams in the league. We're spoiled, though. I'd like to see that number jump back up over 30. This is a week that you might be able to get that done. We'll see. Passing offense, 9th in the league, 230 yards. We were, I think, 13th. Now, with Jaden having his first 300-yard passing performance, we've now entered into the top 10 there. Sacks allowed, tied for 12th with 18 given up this season. Rush offense, 3rd in the league at 165.8 yards. We continue to be ridiculously good on the ground. We were again on Sunday versus the Bears. I think we were 5th. Now we're 3rd, so we continue to be really efficient offensively. 3rd down offense, 4th in the league at 46.4%. I think we were 2nd in the league. We've taken a bit of a tumble here the last couple of weeks. We haven't been as sharp. We weren't terrible against Carolina. I think we were 50%, but we were definitely not at our 50% clip a week ago against the Bears. Total defense, 13th overall. I mean, look at that improvement. My God, we were dead last weeks 1 through 3. Scoring defense, we were dead last weeks 1 through 4, I think. Even after we went to Arizona, I think we were still dead last because we had given up so many points in the first 2 out of 3 games of the season against Tampa 37 and Cincinnati 33. I think we were still, after only giving up 14, I think we were still dead last after 4 weeks. It wasn't until after the Cleveland game where we started to see some movement, but we're 13th in total defense. 13th. Remember, all we were asking for in total defense and scoring defense was somewhere around like 17, 18, 19. Like, just be inside the top 20, and I think we got a shot. Now we're approaching the top 10 in total defense, and we are in the top 10 in scoring defense, giving up just a shade over 20 points a game, almost 21 points a game, essentially. Wow. Now, we could see that be improved even more this week, and then we'll start to be tested by the likes of, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and Dallas and Atlanta, and teams that can actually score the football. So that'll be put to the test as the season wears on. But we got another week, another opportunity to help bolster that total defense as well as the scoring defense. Pass defense is 6th in the league. Joe Whitt talked about that at the press conference. He said our pass defense has been one of the best. I think he said we're top 3 in, pass defense efficiency over the last 5 weeks. Those numbers bear it out right there. Pass defense, 6th in the league, 186.8 yards per game, essentially 187 yards given up. Again, you got to look at the teams we played, but also got to give credit where credit is due. Those teams suck, but they suck because of teams like us dominating them, right? Take advantage of those garbage teams and make them look bad, and that's what we've done. Sacks, we have 21 of them on the season. That's tied for 7th. Again, we were dead last in sacks first 2 weeks of the season. And I think we got 2 against the we were dead last the first 2 weeks, and I think we were 31st or 29th after week 3. And then that's when week 4 against Arizona was the beginning of us really starting to get to the quarterback, and we really haven't stopped getting to the QB since. So it's good to see us tied for 7th in the NFL in sacks. Rush defense, 25th. That's the Achilles heel of this defense right now, is our inability to consistently stop the run. We'll stop it for periods. We'll stop it, for 2-3 quarters, and then we'll give up a big run or 2 or 3, as we did on Sunday against the Bears. 139.6 yards a game isn't good enough. We need to clean that up. Somebody made a great point earlier when they said, if you want to stop the rush yards, especially late in the game, have a big lead, and the run, it becomes less and less of a factor, right? Touche. Third down defense, 23rd at 40.2%. That's, it's right around where we've been, but it's a stark improvement. We were dead last for the first 6 weeks of the season. We were so bad for the first 4 weeks, or the first 3 weeks, excuse me. We were historically bad for the first 3 weeks that it affected us even when we played teams like Arizona, Cleveland, and the likes, and had tremendous performances. We were still, fighting the good fight. It wasn't until, I think, after the Cleveland game that we finally weren't dead last, but we were 29th. Ravens game didn't help us a ton, but then we, were able to recalibrate after that. Carolina game and the Bears game have helped us get all the way to 23rd in third down defense. We're trending in the right direction. Now we got to keep it going. Time of possession, 9th in the league. We've continued to see that dwindle over the last 2 weeks. Didn't have a great time. Well, 2 out of 3 weeks. We dominated time of possession against Carolina. Not at all. We were dominated by the Ravens, and we barely won the time of possession advantage against the Bears. Turnover differential, tied for 8th at +4. That's 2 weeks now in a row, 3 weeks, in a row that we've won the turnover battle. We were at an even 0 going into the Carolina game, and we were able to we were at an even 0 heading into the Ravens game. We were able to create 1 against them, didn't turn it over, created 2 against Carolina, didn't turn it over, and then created 1 against the Bears, did not turn it over. So we are now +4 and trending in the right direction. Now let's take a look at the ops. When you talk about the Giants, total offense, 26th in the league, scoring at 303 yards per game. Scoring offense, 31st in the league. They aren't scoring 15 points a game. They're scoring 14.6 points a game. That is dreadful. And they can't beat us doing that. The Bears almost got away with it, but they're not the Bears. So if they continue to struggle to score, then they should lose this game by multiple scores, right? That's been their Achilles heel. They can't score the football. Passing offense, 23rd in the league at 195. They're not even averaging 200 yards passing a game. All right. It's pretty bad for a team with a veteran quarterback. Those are rookie numbers, not veteran. Sacks allowed, 26 this season. That's good for 30th in the league. So they're the 3rd worst at allowing sacks this season. And they were trying to blame O-line Bobby Johnson, right? It was his fault. It was all his fault. Interesting. Rush offense, 24th in the league, 108.5 yards per game. That's gotten a lot better here over the last probably month or so, with Tyrone Tracy getting a little bit more of the workload. Third down offense, they're 25th at 34.4%, essentially 34.5% of conversions on third down. Not good, and we hope to lower that for them and make them even worse in that statistical category this upcoming Sunday. Total defense, they're 17th in the league, giving up 331 yards per game. Scoring defense, they're 14th in the league, giving up roughly 22 points a game. So not that much more than we're giving up. We're giving up 20 points a game. They're giving up 20. We're giving up 21 points a game, They're giving up 22 points a game. So we're not that much different in that particular category. Their pass defense, they're 8th in the league at 189.4 yards per game. So they're really good against the pass. And a huge part of the reason why they're good against the pass is this next stat. They're the best in the NFL at getting to the quarterback. Kliff Kingsbury mentioned that in his press conference, that the Giants are the best in the league at sacking the quarterback. So that is a big effing deal. Rush defense, they're 27th in the league, giving up 141 yards per game. That's similar to us. That's their biggest Achilles heel, is they struggle to stop the run consistently. And the Steelers had their way against them on Monday night, and we're hoping to do the same. Brian Robinson Jr. had the biggest day of his NFL career, which included the 2 biggest runs of his NFL career, both coming in that Week 2 contest versus the Giants. Third down defense, they're 7th in the NFL at 32.3%. So something's got to give. We're the 3rd best third down offense in football. They're the 7th best third down defense. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. The last time we played them, we murdered them on third downs, which is how we ended up scoring on all 7 of our offensive drives that mattered. They couldn't stop us on third downs. We'll see if we can make that happen again, and this time punch it into the end zone. Time of possession, they're 11th in the NFL at 31 minutes and 24 seconds. And turnover differential, they're tied for 21st. They are -3 in that category. So they don't create a lot of turnovers, and they give it away. And so we got to try to add to that by taking it away from them a couple of times and not allowing them to recoup those back. So you see where we can take advantage of this Giants team this upcoming week. And we have to do everything that needs to be done to take care of business in that football game. And we'll talk about how that can get done and be accomplished tomorrow on Friday's show, as we will get into our keys to victory on both sides of the ball. But it is Halloween. So happy Halloween to those of you who are celebrating. I've got a special treat for you in the description of this video. As a matter of fact, I will also pin it. You can go in the description, or you can just go down into the comment section. I am pinning a link to a video. It's a classic on this channel. I've got it locked up in the vault, but I'm releasing it. I usually do this, only around Halloween. When I first started back in 2012, I had a series called NFL's Most Wanted. And that's my alter ego, the Sheriff, that you're going to meet. Most of you have met the Sheriff before. But it was a fun series. One of the things I enjoyed doing the most when I first started my channel and this brand. And for a lot of you probably haven't been exposed to the Sheriff before, but you will be exposed to the Sheriff tonight. If you haven't, there's a link. This link is a limited time link only. I'll probably leave this up for about a week or so, and then I will send it back into the vault. But enjoy NFL's Most Wanted, my Week 10 edition of 2012, I believe it was. It was a good one. So this is my Halloween treat to you. Enjoy. I'll have the link down in the description and pinned to the top of this video, along with the I got to add in here, so I got to pin that as well. But it'll be pinned to the top of the comment section. Click and enjoy. I can't wait to read your responses, whether it's on that video or you leave the comment here on this video. But you'll enjoy it. I know you will. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of Commanders Nightly News. Happy Halloween. Enjoy the treat. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.